Hi, welcome back to Tangling with Gina. Today I'm going to show you a lovely little tangle called Apacore. Isn't that pretty? Now this is a more complicated one, and we're going to start with the basic and then we'll move on and I'll show you how to embellish it if you like. This one has 3 of the Apacore tangles put together to make a larger flower. The tangle called Flux, just leaf like fun, and Poke Root, and Fescue. Anyway, these are really fun little tangles, and I think you will enjoy doing them. Here, the tangle that I had been working on earlier with Adelpha and the A's, you can see here where I came back and I put the Apacore in the middle there, okay? The Apacore. The Apacore is by Laurie Morgan, or Manigan. I'm not sure how she pronounces this today, but anyway, I'm going to write it on the back of this one. It's A-P-A, Apacore. That pen's drying up. Let's grab another one. Apacore. And it's by Laurie Manigan. I would probably say Manigan, but as I go through more and more of these tangles, I get my tongue twisted more and more by trying to figure out what somebody's or how somebody's last name is pronounced. I'm going to get back to this tile in a minute. When I finish this tile up, I'm going to talk about a couple of things with it. I did use some white chalk. I used my white chalk pencil, and I added a little bit of white highlight coming down the middle here, and I used some white on the Apacore. I am not overly pleased with this tile. I think it started out well, but I think it got a little fussy. And so there's a little bit too much going on, so there's not really a central focal area. So it's an okay tile, but I think and it's easy to do. You can get carried away, and then you look up and you go, oops, maybe I should have stopped about 2 tangles ago. But anyway, it's not bad. It's just, I think it lacks a central focal area. Whereas this one, very definitely, I placed, this one actually does have a top and bottom, and I placed this one definitely where I wanted it, and I kept it as the center of my tiles. So I think it works better. Okay. Oh dear, I hope you're not hearing that. That's my darling dogs. So we're going to start off with just doing one of these. And so I suggest you start with your notebook or sketch pad or any kind of paper you have. And if you feel better doing this, trying it the first few times with pencil, go for it. It's your art, your way. So here's one that I've already done. Here's the simple one. Here's the one where I've added 3. And this little Zentangle right here is called Fescue. It's one of the original Zentangle patterns. I'm not sure if it's Maria came up with it or Rick, but you'll see that it gets used a lot. It's a lovely leafy little pattern. It's great to use as a filler, kind of just a nice little embellishment. All right, so for Apacore, what I want to do, and I'm going to show you two ways to do it. To start, our first thing is we're going to make this long little pear shape. I don't know what you call that, a seed shape. And you want it kind of long because this is going to be that little star. You see how this makes a little star? This is going to be the little star. And then I'm going to come over here. And here's where I do things a little different. I found it's easier to make that outside curved line and then come back and make that shape. So that's my first two shapes. This is going to be the center, my two bottom petals. Now, again, because I find it easier to make my petal shape, I'm going to make the petal shape, and then I'm going to come down to the bottom. I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'm going to make my petal shape, come down to the bottom. Whoa, bad. I'm going to have to make that line dark. I went way too far down. That happens sometimes, so if I'm going to make that one dark, I'm going to even it out by making this one dark. Either that or start the video over. See, this is what we can get creative if you get a mistake. So if I'm going to make that one dark, then I'm going to make this one dark. So this may turn out all right. This may turn out kind of interesting. May have an interesting variation here. We'll see. Maybe, maybe not. Then I'm going to make the top one. And again, since I made that one dark, I'm going to go ahead and make this one dark. Yeah. And we'll just see what happens. Now, this is the thing about Zentangle. If you make a mistake, just look at it and say, okay, what can I do? Usually you'll find there's something you can do. So I'll put a little dark dot right there in the center. I normally, as you can see, that little star shape gets colored in dark. But this time, since I made my lines dark, I'm going to leave the star shape white. But I am going to come back, and this is not on the original, but I just really liked kind of coming back, putting a line, putting some dots. That breaks up that big empty space, and it draws your eye up towards this flower part. So this is the very simple version of Apacore. Now, I can come back and do a little light shading. Just remember that the shading gives us that depth that we don't have, particularly when we're dealing with paper. I'll put a little bit in here. Just a little. I tend to get heavy-handed with shading, so I have to really watch myself that I don't do that. Take this tortillon and just gently pull it up. Pull the shading up from the bottom up to the top. This one's dirty. I need to get a new one. I'm picking up. With this one, too, because the tortillon already has a lot on it, I have to be careful because it'll pick up just from the tortilla. The blending stop will let her be on. All right, so there's your basic Apacore. Now, let's look at combining these to make more of a flower or make a different type design. Okay? All right, so I've got mine here, but actually I'm going to start on a new page. And I'm going to do my first one down here. Now, they don't have to be perfect. This one's definitely not perfect. Now I'm going to make my other little, so this almost looks like a little starfish to me. It almost looks like a little starfish. And then I'll make my big one. Like that. Now, here's the other thing that we can do with Apacore. We can add some more petals to it. So I'm going to add, on this side, I'm going to add 3 more petals. All right. I'm not adding one to this side. Just adding 3 more to this side. And that's because what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this around, and where this point is, I'm going to even make a little dot there. Okay. Where this dot is, I'm going to come back up. I'll put in another Apacore. I'll come back and make that little petal shape. Now I'm going to put in those 3 more. I'm going to put in a little dot there. Now I'm going to turn this around this way. And I'm going to make my 3rd one. In art, our eye is always drawn or more readily pleased if we have an odd number of objects. And so this one will be 3. It's just something in our brain and our psyche that we like groups of 3. So as you can see, I'm doing the long line and then I'm coming in. On the original artist, I don't think she does it like this, but mine got really wonky and wobbly. And then I discovered that if I do it like this, I can keep better control over it. Where I make my line, curved line and then bring that line down. Now I'm going to do my 3. 1. All right, I'm not going to have room for 3. Okay. Now I have, I'm going to turn it back up so that this is kind of, I've got a choice. I could add a 4th one right here, or I can come down and make something like a stem with some leaves. That's kind of an option. And I think that's maybe what I'm going to do on this one. I'm going to come down, make 2 little parallel lines, and then come out, make a big teardrop shape, back in. And this little pattern right here is called Flux, and it is another one of the original Zen Tangle patterns. I believe that Rick was the one who originally came up with it. And then Maria kind of messed around and added some things to it. And there's several different ways of doing it. Now what we do usually with this is we also usually come in and in some of these places, small places, we put in some small orbs. That just gives it a little bit more decoration. And since I did it on that side, I think I'll do one on this side. I think I'm going to do the flux first. Just a little teardrop shape. I'll draw my stem. So there I've got this lovely little flower with flux. I'm going to come back now. I'm going to add my line with my 3 dots. Okay. And also, since this one's a little bit larger, I can add a little bit more. I think inside of these, I'm going to add some little fleck lines. So this is going to give it some remember to turn your paper when you need to. What happens here is doing that really kind of makes everything come to that center. So you get more of a feeling of this is definitely going to be a flower of some type, whatever type we want it to be. Now I have the choice that I can come back and that star pattern, I can fill it in or I can leave it blank. I think what I may try to do is just come back and fill it in with some little small lines. Not solid. I'm sure I want to do that. Some little short lines. Yeah, I think I like that. Again, my major shape is Apacore, and I joined 3 of them together. The leaf shape right here is called Flux by, as I said, one of the original Zen tangles. I think it's by Rick. Now I'm going to come back and I make these long curvy lines, and at the end I put a little seed shape. And I color that in. This is fescue. Again, this is one of the original Zen tangles. And I think I'll just put one more over here. Now, since these are all pointing, these first 2 are all pointing the same way, I think I'll take this other one, come behind and bring it down so that it draws my eye, draws our eye back towards our flower. Now, I like this pretty much the way it is, but I also want to show you poke root. Poke root is this little, grows up in the New England area. We don't have it in Mexico. But to me, it also looks like cherries. But this is a good one to think about because I'm just going to start right here. It helps you with your over and under. So I'm going to start with a little thin stem, and I'm going to put a little curve, like a little smiley mouth right there. And then I'm going to come around and make an orb shape or round shape. Doesn't have to be perfect. I bet if you go to the store and you buy a bag of cherries or anything like that, none of them are going to be perfectly circular, and they're all going to be different. Now, out of this one, I'm going to make another one. And where it runs into the first one, it's going to stop and pick up my pen. I did another one. These are a little bit bigger than I think they should be, so I'm going to start bringing them down smaller. And I'm just going to draw right through this fescue. I am making them smaller as I come down, simply because I don't want them to be the center of importance. I still want my flower. Now this one, we're just going to see a little bit of it. Now this one may come down. I'm going to come down and pick this up under here. And I may cross over here. I'm kind of following a curved line in my mind. That's just, and I think this last one will be it. Yeah, I think that's enough. I think I'm at the point now that I'm risking overdoing it. There we go. So that all that it's lacking now is some shading and maybe a pretty little border to go around it. So I'm going to start with my shading. Right at the bottom of the fescue. That's a fescue flux. And for some reason, sometimes I want to call it flex, but it's flux. Okay, so put the lid on that pen so it doesn't dry out. Pull this shading up. Okay, so that's done. Now I'm going to shade on the left side of my flower petals. Just a little bit, just a teeny bit. Try not to be heavy-handed with this, just a very thin line of graphite to give that some depth. Okay. And on this one, I may need to put some right there. Or right here, because I want that center petal to stand out. Okay, so now I'm going to turn it. Oh, goodness. Look, we missed. There we go. Again, just a little bit of depth. So thin, very thin line of graphite. Okay, turn it around so I can do this last one. Then I will have left to do is the poke root. Okay, grab my stump. Oop, that got a little dark. I really need to clean this stump. This one's bigger, but I use a light hand on it. I switched to this fat one. It's not really the one I would like, but it's clean. The other one had a little bit too much graphite on it. The nice thing about these, whether you call them blending stumps or tortillons, they're very inexpensive, so you can buy a ton of them and not worry about them. Just throw them in the recycling bin. All right, I'm gonna, for right now, I'm gonna keep it turned this way. Nope, I will move it back. Because I wanna make sure all of my shading goes in the same direction. All right, first of all, I want to put some dark shading around the bottom where the stem is. So it looks like that stem is actually going into the cherry or the poke root. I just can't stop myself from calling these cherries, even though they're poke roots. Okay, now I'm just going to come around and make a little C-shaped blending on each side. Now this one is going to get a lot more blending on it because it's hiding. This one too may be a little bit more on this side because it's slightly underneath this one. Here I have to be very careful because these are very small and I don't want to turn them really dark. So now I'm going to take my stump and lightly blend. Now, one thing I'm going to do something that's a little different that I haven't done yet. These are getting fairly dark. So I'm going to come back with, here it is, my white charcoal pencil, and I'm going to make a little highlight right there. When in art, one of the things we can say that that's not working very well. Okay, we're going to change to a jelly roll pen because my white charcoal pencil doesn't want to cooperate. So I'm going to come back and make a little curved line. And this is very delicate, so if you can't see it at first, you may have to wait for your ink to dry. And that's one thing when you're using Jelly Roll. If you're putting this over dark ink, you've got to let that ink be all the way dry before it's going to show up. Otherwise, it just blends in and turns this kind of, well, what do you get when you get white and, when you mix white and black, you get gray, and that's what happens there. I'm not really pleased with either of these. All right. I think the problem with this is it needs sharpening. Let me see if I sharpen it, if that will help. This General White Charcoal Pencil is actually one of the best out there. If you have regular pastel pencils, you can use those too. But I don't know what it is about this one. This one just really seems to usually work well. As I say that, and then just deciding it doesn't want to cooperate today. You do have to clean it off. It'll pick up that carbon. So, anyway, I think I'm going to leave it like that. Not much you can see. The white's not really showing up too much. But it is working because I just tested it on something dark. Oh, that's part of the reason. This is an 05. That's part of the reason that's an 05. I want an 08. Aha. Yeah. Sometimes these Julie Rose are just going to be tacky, so I'll just have to leave it like that. So now I'm just going to come down here and I'm going to initial it. And I'm going to leave it alone. So basically we have four. We have poke root, fescue, flux, and apacore. And it does make this very, very graceful little design. And if I wanted to, I could come back around and put a border on it. I may do that later. I'm not sure exactly what I'll do with this. But I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you'll give it a try. Practice it in your notebook and then see what all you can do with it. There's a lot of wonderful, fun variations on this for you to play with. Thank you for watching.